Well, you can get excited, football fans. Spring football is almost here. We were reminded of that earlier this week when OU held a pre-spring practice interview session. Brent Venables did a formal press conference and answered questions for about 40 minutes. Then every new Sooner who enrolled mid-year talked to reporters. 35 of them in all. Lots of great stuff came out of the 2+ hour session, and we'll dive into that with my 3 takeaways. Plus, you'll get to hear straight from one of the new Sooners, Casey Thompson. But before we get to that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button and it will help me continue to bring you the guests and the content that you want. I also want to say a word of thanks to these sponsors for supporting the Jenni Carlson Show. MidFirst Bank, the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, FireLakeJobs.com, Next Gen Roofing, 988, Oklahoma's Mental Health Lifeline, the Oklahoma Ford Dealers Association. Drive into your best in Oklahoma Ford dealers today for the best deals on Ford's full lineup of trucks and SUVs. Ford is the best in Oklahoma. And Two Fellas Movers. With over 20 years experience, Two Fellas Moving Company has pretty much moved it all. If you're moving in Oklahoma, make sure to call the fellas. Visit twofellas.com for your free quote today. Well, this pre-spring football interview session has started to become something of a tradition at OU. Brent Venables did it last year for the first time, wanting to get all the newcomers from that mid-year entry point, get them out and talking to the media, freshmen, transfers in this NIL era. He thought it was important to have those players get some experience and get in front of cameras, get their names and their voices out there. But when you bring in all of the new mid-year enrollees, it's freshmen, it's transfers, and it's a lot. You can't get to every guy as a reporter in the room. This year we had 20 and 15, 20 offensive players, 15 defensive players. And so I had to pick and choose. But one guy that I made sure to talk to was Casey Thompson. Now, he's a Sooner legacy. His dad, Charles, played quarterback at OU back in the Barry Switzer days. His older brother, Kendall, also played at OU before finishing out his college career at Utah. Casey grew up about 15 minutes from Owen Field. Moore was his home basically throughout his childhood growing up. But when he finished up with high school, he went to Texas. Then he transferred to Nebraska and Florida Atlantic. Back in December, he decided to transfer again. And this time, OU was an option for him. And the Sooners, he wanted to be a Sooners, and the Sooners wanted him to be a Sooner. So you'll want to hear from Casey Thompson, who starts off talking about what it will be like to have played for 3 of the most iconic brands in all of college football, that being OU, Texas, and Nebraska.
When I talk to my dad and my family, we talk about it, and just someday just having a trophy room and having those jerseys and having those pictures framed will be very iconic. But just to grow up in Oklahoma and to come back and finish in Oklahoma, I just think it's a full circle deal in a moment. Like I said, for my family and I, and I'll be able to someday tell my kids, the stories. But it's crazy. It's crazy because without going to one place, that would have never led me to the next place. And everything happens for a reason. And like I said, you just can never prepare for moments like this. But it'll be very meaningful for me to have this, Oklahoma Sooners jersey on the front and to have the Thompson name on the back. But a lot of people don't know is, when people ask why did you go to Oklahoma, since I was a kid, I've always wanted to play for a very good head coach, as far as a believer and a good man who stands by the word, who believes in discipline, accountability, and who does things the right way. And so far, everything that I've ever wanted from a team and from a coach, I've gotten right here at Oklahoma, and so it's definitely important to me. Someday, whenever I coach or become a trainer or a quarterback, training for my kids, I think it's important that I use a lot of these principles and values I've learned from Coach Venables and just from my college experience. And so, like I said, obviously you can tell I'm happy that I'm here, and everything is going good so far. I have zero complaints. Like, at other places I've been in the past, other teams I've been on, other coaches I've had, you may have complaints about, the scheduling or, the workouts or, the runs and the lifts or the food. But man, everything here has been incredible. And I truly mean that. And I know that because I've been, with a lot of different coaching staffs and a lot of different teams. And what we have here is special.
You've played.
Go ahead.
You've played for two of OU's biggest rivals.
Mm-hmm.
Was it weird being on the other side of that because of your Oklahoma heritage?
Well, it's almost like if you grow up with, a lot of people you went to school with, and then you go play against them. It's almost like you're kind of like over here and they're over there, and you can look across and you see a lot of familiar faces that and coaches and players, and so it was a little bit different. I would say it was weird at first for me.
Mm-hmm.
My first few years of college, it was always like, because you think about it, like I literally grew up 15 minutes down the street, and so anytime I come back for a bye week or for holidays or a break, you land in Oklahoma and you see the OU logo at the airport, and you see everybody drive around town with it, and it's everywhere. You can't escape.
And the horns down, by the way.
When
I was there.
Yeah,
when you come back here, did you wear Texas gear?
Man, I would always wear the stuff I had to for school and stuff, but I would say it was weird because growing up here and living here for 18 years and then going to play for different teams, you can't really wear red as much. You can't really wear crimson as much. And it's crazy because, like, I'm a Nike and I'm a Jordan guy. And I've worn Nike and Jordan, like, at every facility I've been in. And I come back here and we're sponsored by, so I can wear it freely. But I would say it took a little bit of adjustment and getting used to. But in the back of my mind, this is OU, so you're always going to have the respect, for OU in high regards. But it was pretty cool to be able, like I said, to come back for sure. And the biggest thing that I always would worry about, I was like, would I have a regret if someday when I finish my college career, I'm not able to just, like, my family, my dad's going to wear his OU hat and he's going to, have his house decked out with crimson and cream the rest of his life. And my brother went to OU, obviously Kendall, so he's going to be a football, OU fan the rest of his life. And I'm just like, it would be weird if I wasn't, like, able to do the same thing. So just being able to, like I said, to finish my career here is very meaningful, and it would be a big deal.
Or Newcastle.
That's the thing. Even with like Newcastle, like, I only went to Newcastle for 4 months.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a sophomore Sabre cat. I grew up in Moore, Oklahoma. I was born in Oklahoma City, moved to Moore, and then went to Southmore for 3 years. But going to Newcastle, like, I was literally there from August to December. And so, like, when people say Newcastle, that doesn't really, like, register in my heart because, I was at Southmore for 3.5 years. And that's kind of how I felt about OU the whole time. Just growing up here, I literally go home and my dad's house is like, I see Barry Switzer in the dining room, I see Bob Stoops in the living room, I see my dad and JaVale Holloway in his, little trophy room and stuff. So just being able to come back is a very big deal. But I was telling BB when I got here, I had never seen this new Switzer Center, and I hadn't been in this facility since 2017, back whenever OU was in the portables across the street. Yeah. And so it's been a long time, for sure. It's nice to be back.
Now, that was only about 5 minutes of Casey Thompson, but I listened to a lot more of what he had to say. And basically, the whole time, no matter what he was asked, a lot of times it came back around to how lucky he felt to be at OU. He's a seventh-year player, so having the year to play is a big deal. Plus, OU having a spot for him, obviously, after Dylan Gabriel's transfer, changed what OU might be looking for in terms of quarterback transfers. Everything had to work out perfectly for this to work. Now, the truth is, while most Sooner fans undoubtedly have a soft spot in their hearts for the Thompson family, I suspect that most of those fans are probably hoping Casey Thompson doesn't have to play meaningful snaps this season. Jackson Arnold is clearly the incumbent. He started in the bowl game. And as long as things go as most people expect, Jackson Arnold is going to be the starter for the Sooners. And as a young guy, you would look at him as being a long-term starter for the Sooners. So using Casey Thompson in meaningful snaps, I don't know that that's really something a lot of OU folks want to see, but you can never have too many quarterbacks. Casey Thompson has played in 33 games as a collegiate quarterback. That's not the type of thing that you often get in a quarterback who transfers in. Most veteran quarterbacks who transfer want to play right away. Casey Thompson said he wants to play. He wants to be in the mix. But if he doesn't, he understands he has a role on this team. So I think it's an interesting thing that Oklahoma was able to draw him back as a veteran guy, as an experienced guy, as a quarterback, in case they would need somebody to come out and spell Jackson Arnold, the likely guy who's going to start for the Sooners. Now, Casey Thompson wasn't the only storyline during OU's pre-spring press availability. Here are some other takeaways, 3 other takeaways I had from the session. Number 1, don't be surprised if some true freshman defensive linemen are used this next fall. I asked Brent Venables about true freshman defensive linemen. There's been some great defensive linemen over the years, even since Venables was first involved with the program. Tommy Harris, Gerald McCoy, guys like that. Tommy Harris didn't play as a true freshman. Gerald McCoy did play as a true freshman. But Oklahoma has got a couple guys that, in listening to what Brent Venables had to say, we're likely to see play as true freshmen on this defensive line. Top of the list would be David Stone and Jaden Jackson. Both of those guys went to IMG, the prep school for a lot of sports, but has become a football sort of college preparatory program. And they obviously come into this position playing defensive line from a program that may have prepared them a little bit differently than some other high school programs might have. So I think they're both in position to potentially play fairly significantly as true freshmen. Both told me yesterday that they've gained a fairly significant amount of weight, somewhere in the 15 to 20 pounds range. David Stone told me he's over 280 pounds for the first time in his life, but 300 pounds is the goal. So we'll see just what those guys can bring to the table potentially as true freshmen on that defensive line. Takeaway number 2, Dion Burks is a guy that could really become a Sooner fan favorite. He's a receiver who transferred from Purdue. Not a big guy, 5'11", 195, but he's got a very engaging personality, almost a bubbly type of, spirit to him. And maybe it's just because he's happy to be a Sooner. I'm not sure, but he was definitely one that I enjoyed talking to. And, if he could potentially become the next Drake Stoops, he will be a fan favorite for a lot of Sooner fans as well. He's definitely an interesting add to a wide receiver group that returns almost everybody but Stoops. Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson, Jalil Farouk. Andrell Anthony will be back from injury. Venables updated him a bit during his time, saying that Andrell Anthony likely not a spring participant, but should be good to go come fall. So how does Dion Burks factor in? If he could become a guy that is always finding places open on the field, makes big catches, I think that could be huge for the Sooners. Takeaway number 3. The defense got better this week, and they haven't even started spring football. The NCAA granted Justin Harrington's waiver for a 7th season. Now, Justin played the cheetah position last year, that hybrid linebacker defensive back position. Then he got hurt as a 6th year. Was going to have a long-term recovery. He will not play this spring, but Brent Venables announced that the NCAA did allow him that 7th year, which I talked to Justin earlier this offseason, wrote about him and his NIL nonprofit work. And in talking to him, I got the feeling that he was pretty hopeful about getting this 7th year, but you never know until the NCAA says for sure. But getting Justin Harrington back is a big get for this Sooner defense. He's rangy, he's aggressive, fast, tough. OU's going to need as many guys like that as possible as it moves to the SEC. So a big moment of improvement for this OU defense. And again, they haven't even got on the field yet for spring football. We'll have a lot more on the Sooners as they do head into spring football. So be sure to stay with selloutcrowd.com for all sorts of OU football coverage. If this happens to be your first time hearing or watching the Jenni Carlson Show, be sure to subscribe to my channel on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Also, you can download our new Sellout Crowd app for your iPhone or Android. Thanks again for being here, and we'll see you next time.